So I didn't really expect to be recording a follow-up video to the impossible shot, or the impossible shot gets more impossible, or Doctor Who monsters that can't move. But there's more. There's even more to the shot than in the previous video. And I would have let it go, except I actually found the missing rushes of the shot. So we can go a little bit further, and that'll be at the end of the video. Turns out that the episode editor, Will Oswald, who you know from having edited the majority of my Doctor Who episodes, and also my Sherlock episode, he saw the segment and decided to explain to me some of the reasons why he found the shot so difficult to edit. First of all, let's just put a little kudos out to Will, who should be canonized for his incredible work on Heaven Sent. And he and cinematographer Stuart Biddlecombe do not get enough recognition, just saying. Let me start by explaining that the shot I put in the video, this shot, is not the final composite or composite, depending on which side of the pond you're on. This is the editor's temp shot. I should explain to those who don't know that visual effects shots often aren't ready for the editor when they're cutting. So most shows hire someone to put together temporary versions of the shots so that when the producers watch the first edit, they understand what is supposed to be happening or what they're supposed to be seeing, and it's not a green tennis ball. Or it also helps to show the length of the shot, and it gives an indication of what's working and whether it's even worthwhile doing the expensive visual effect. Will happens to be an incredibly talented visual effects person as well, so he was able to put the shot together himself. And he also had the ability to take the flying wrarths from tests and composite them. I'm going to use the American term, composite them into the shot. He says he wasn't worried we could afford it. Well, I was. What I showed in the previous segment, Will did an amazing job with the temp, and therefore I was able to explain about the shot. But as at least one of you pointed out, there's a bump at the end of the shot, which isn't in the final. And if I had let it run a little bit longer, it's actually a much bigger bump. Will did not have the time or the fancy programs or the computing power to completely smooth the final shot, but his job was good enough version to put in the edit to show the bosses. When I asked Will, he didn't remember if we had done a lock-off of the window shot, and before I found the rushes, he did his own forensics work, so he pulled out notes from the script supervisor and used them to determine that we did not stabilize the shot, hence it must have been a lock-off. But I actually don't know how he can tell from this paperwork that there wasn't any stabilization. Interesting. So we're talking about the circled take C2, and from the description we were on a crane, but we were on a crane purely to get the height and angle down into the window, not because we needed to move the camera. So it was a lock-off. And above the C2 is shot B15. B is B camera, which had another angle we filmed at the same time, and that camera would have been inside the set, getting tighter coverage of the actors coming toward it. And it would easily be hidden from the overhead camera by the window frame. So never waste an opportunity to get more footage of your actors. This is always a challenge for the cinematographer who doesn't necessarily want to be lighting a high overhead shot and a close shot of the actors at the same time. So hats off here to the absolutely wonderful Matt Gray. Will said that one of the hard parts of the shot for him was that the meep was so slow. And that's a long separate story, and I really feel like we have to talk about the meep completely separately. Will had to put a split screen into the shot to get the meep closer to the other actors, but it had to be at a point where he could still match the camera move. And the other part that he struggled with was exactly as I described, that there was a whole lot of boring sections as the camera moved up and over to the roof. And he tried all kinds of ways to speed the shot up himself. So he did some speed ramps and some retiming and some split screens, but he said none of them worked, and that's where he landed on the flying wrarth. That was his idea, to use them. I know that in the script at different times there had been references to the flying wrarth, but not at that specific moment. So let's take a look at the footage. Here's a take of the drone shot. Not bad considering we had to come off the battle and make it look very active and keep things going, and that the drone had to land on the roof that had nothing to indicate where the window should go. What you needed was a target that it was landing for, but it had nothing, just a dark roof. So that's kind of remarkable from the drone pilot standpoint. And yes, the shot is slow. And here is the shot that we did of looking down into the window, and yes, here it is. It's a lock-off, and here's a tighter version of it and a wider version of it, because it wasn't clear whether we would want to put another cut in or whether we wanted to do something that was closer in. You can see the small amount of the window frame that we actually ended up building, the difficulty that the MEP had moving. And as I said, we really need to do a section where we discussed how to do movement on the MEP, which bits of the MEP were going to be real and practical, and which were going to be makeup effects, and which were going to be CGI. That was a thing, and a very long tangent. But here you can see that marrying the two shots was not so difficult, because the shot looking down at the actors doesn't have a lot of angle to match. So when I talked about the z-axis, the drone didn't have to really hit the exact angle because you don't see enough of the roof. Gosh, this is just the simplest of composites. It looks so easy, but it's a big cheat, and I think I've proved that it was not an easy shot in 1,000 ways. The VFX company did a wonderful job putting the shots together. Ultimately, they had to speed up the MEP and also do CGI work on the MEP to enhance it. It's quite an incredibly complicated shot in addition to the things that we talked about last time. And I do hope it finally lived up to Russell's expectations and his imagination when he wrote the shot. Well, that's just a small follow-up on the shot. I didn't think I was going to do more, but Will set me off on a quest, so here you are. Please support the channel with the liking and all that stuff. I am compiling your ideas put into the comments and working on a variety of videos that will answer them. So your feedback is very helpful. Thank you.